What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to TTP Sports, and wow, I think Howie Roseman actually did something good. I think all of us here in Eagles country can agree that, okay, maybe Howie Roseman, he could take a day away from the slander. This is his off day. This is like, he doesn't deserve the slander tonight because he actually did something pretty good. I'll actually say that too. No doubts in Howie Roseman whatsoever. I believed in him the entire time. But yeah, he actually did something good in this draft, and I like the pick. I like it a lot. And going into this draft, everyone was just panicking because they basically just did not know what the Eagles were going to do with that 12th overall pick. But because you trade the 6th overall pick with Miami, you go to 12. But then you would eventually, when it comes down to closer to your pick and you're getting closer to the Dallas Cowboys, the Giants pick, and you're seeing some players go off the board that maybe the Eagles could have used those guys, and maybe they were expecting those guys to fall at 12. So they recognize, okay, the Cowboys, they probably don't want to stay at the 10th overall pick because those two cornerbacks that were selected at 8th and 9th, maybe the Cowboys got one of those two guys. So they elect to trade back, and the Eagles, they took that option. They made sure no other team was able to trade up with Dallas to get this receiver. And hey, I'll give props to Howie Roseman. So the Eagles traded up to the 10th overall pick, and they also traded the 12th pick that they had, and I think the 84th pick in the third round of this draft to get up to that 10th spot. And they take Alabama wide receiver, and basically everyone's the recognized top receiver of this entire first round of the draft, Devonta Smith. And Devonta Smith, he is highly touted. He led the NCAA in receptions, receiving yards, receiving touchdowns last year. He's the reigning Heisman Trophy runner for a reason. Has won a couple of national titles with Alabama just recently as well. So yeah, this kid has a lot of potential. He's probably I guess what scouts are saying, he is the highly rated wide receiver coming into this draft, even though there were a couple of receivers selected before, because a lot of scouts, they're still worried about his size. He only weighs in around 160, 165, so I guess people see that small of a size on a wide receiver and they get a little bit afraid of that just because of how small the guy actually is. But that's something I'm not really worried about. There's talent in all shapes and sizes when it comes to sports, NBA, baseball, football, hockey. There's talent in all shapes and sizes, and Howie Roseman brought that up in his press conference too. They weren't going to judge around based his size. They see the talent in this kid. He was the best player available, and they took the risk. They went up to the 10th overall pick, and they select Smith there. So I'm going to give all the props right there to Howie Roseman. They took that risk, and this was definitely, I think, a pick that the Giants probably wanted. And the Eagles, they took that chance, and they moved above to take him away from the Giants, which is, I think it's also better in my eyes because you take that type of player away from a division rival, and you also prevent another team that maybe tried to trade up with the Dallas Cowboys and prevent them from getting that pick that you really wanted. Because if the Eagles were really truly looking for a cornerback, those two guys were taking away with the 8th and the 9th overall pick, with Horn and Surtain going with 8th and 9th to the Panthers and the Broncos. So yeah, just this entire just leading up to this draft, it's been like so just weird because everyone was so panicky. They didn't know what to expect. It's just basically the Eagles need so much right now because they're in this retool phase, whatever you want to call it right now. Have all these new faces in the coaching staff, Nick Sirianni, and still, like, no one's really saying that Jalen Hurts is the starting quarterback. But I think with this first round of the draft, because Justin Fields was available on the board, and the Eagles elected not to go with him. So I feel like this pick right here with Devonta Smith does prove that Jalen Hurts is going to be the starter for next year. Because it's weird because Sirianni never really stated it. Howie never really stated that Jalen Hurts was going to be the starter for next season, which honestly, if you look around the entire thing, it's probably obvious that Jalen Hurts is going to be the starter for next season. And hey, he played with Devonta Smith when Jalen Hurts was at Alabama, so these two have a connection with each other, so maybe that leads to some chemistry on the field. And like I said, I like the pick overall. I really do. And if you're just looking at this beginning of the first round leading up to the Eagles pick, you got the obvious Trevor Lawrence going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. You got Zach Wilson going to the Jets. Trey Lance going to San Francisco, Kyle Pitts going to Atlanta, Jamar Chase, he was the first wide receiver selected, and he went to the Bengals. Jalen Waddle, that was one of the picks that no one really expected there. So when you're seeing these picks go on the board, you're thinking at this point, okay, maybe the Eagles made that right move when they traded back in the draft so many months ago with the Miami Dolphins to go back to the 12th overall pick. Because if you're looking at guys like maybe Jamar Chase, maybe a Kyle Pitts, clearly those guys were not available at the original spot that the Eagles were at. So at this point, that trade that Howie Roseman made earlier a couple months ago, it looked a lot better in this standpoint. Then you see Sewell going to Detroit. You see Horn going to Carolina. Then you see Surtain going to the Broncos. And then you have Devonta Smith falling to the Eagles. And then Parsons, he was the guy that Dallas selected with that 12th overall pick, trading back with the Eagles. So, and also with the New York Giants, since they couldn't get their guy at 11, they traded over with the Chicago Bears, and Chicago gave a hefty haul. They traded their, I think, 2 first-round picks and a couple of later-round picks as well to get over to this spot just to draft Justin Fields, and I know a lot of people are very high on Justin Fields, so Chicago got their quarterback, and I know there were a lot of Eagles fans that wanted Justin Fields as well. It was basically, I think, a lot of sides, even though the Eagles wanted, or they need so many things right now. They just need so many positions at this moment because they're so empty in a lot of spaces. And we know Howie Roseman, so many years in a row, he's been drafting a lot of wide receivers. But there were a lot of people that wanted Devonta Smith, a lot of people that wanted Justin Fields, a lot of people that wanted somewhere on the defensive side, cornerback possibly. But with the 12th overall pick at your standpoint, those guys at corner weren't available. So you went with the best guy available at the wide receiver who still landed there at 10th overall. You took advantage of that because Dallas, they clearly didn't want him. They needed the other needs on defense. And you took that pick away from the Giants, and you took that pick away from any other teams who might have been trying to trade up with Dallas. So I'll give a lot of props to Howie Roseman. And hey, this is a guy that could be your number 1 wide receiver going into next season. So Howie Roseman actually drafted a guy that's going to be a day 1 starter most likely. So I guess let's be happy. Let's be happy with this pick. So it's just so weird leading up to this draft because all the stuff with Nick Sirianni talking about the rock, paper, scissors when he's doing the talking with the different prospects of this NFL draft just to see their competitive level playing rock, paper, scissors with them. I find that hilarious and completely ridiculous at the same time. But hey, if it works, it works. I'm not going to go deep into that kind of conversation there. But yeah, I'm pleased with this pick. I'm really happy that they went with this because this is something that they definitely need. We all know the Eagles, they don't have that top wide receiver, and we know they have a lot of receivers. We know this, but there's not that one guy that you can say is the clear-cut number 1. We maybe expected Jalen Reagor to be that last year, even though you're not really giving up on the guy, he's not truly you think would be a number 1 wide receiver on your team. So you draft a guy like Smith, he's going to be your number 1 guy to start the season, so that's a very bright spot, and hopefully there is some chemistry there with Hurts and Smith because they played with each other in Alabama. So next season, we all know the Eagles are not going to be a very competitive team. This is still the middle of their retooling and the franchise just building up pieces because we all know they have all those draft picks in the first round next season. So this year, most likely, in my opinion, it's going to be a test for Jalen Hurts to see if he's the guy that they want to be a quarterback for the foreseeable future. And if he struggles next year, doesn't showcase anything, something that he can be anything or be the franchise quarterback for this team for the foreseeable future, then they'll probably look for a quarterback in next year's draft. So that's honestly where I see it going. But you never know. You just got to wait till next season. And waiting to see what the Eagles do in the rest of this draft because I think they had 11 picks in this draft, but I think that moved down to 10 because they traded that 3rd round pick to Dallas. But the Eagles, they still have a ton of picks in this draft, especially in the later rounds. So let's see what the Eagles use to fulfill those needs because these 2 drafts are huge for the Eagles to just find ways to refill the roster with much needed talent because they need talent everywhere. They need talent. They got their talent in wide receiver. They need talent on the defensive line. They need talent on defense in general. So there are so many places that they can go with. And there are so many, like I said, there's so many ways So many routes they can go, so many players they can pick, and whether you trust Howie or not, he's the guy that's going to be making these picks. And today, he made the right one. He definitely did. So I'll give props to Howie Roseman for today. So, like I said, I love the pick in Devonta Smith. I think he's going to be fit really well here in Philadelphia. He's had so much success with Alabama, won the Heisman last year, won a couple of NCAA titles. So he's going to hopefully bring some of that success to Philadelphia, be ready for training camp, be that number one wide receiver that we desperately need, and be a guy, hopefully, that can have some good chemistry with Jalen Hurts. So I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this pick. What are your guys' thoughts on Devonta Smith falling to the Eagles? What are your thoughts on Howie Roseman trading up to that 10th overall spot to get Smith and maybe take him away from a team like the Giants? So I want to hear all your thoughts. Do you think the Eagles should have picked someone else? Were you a person that maybe wanted Justin Fields on the Eagles? Do you think the Eagles maybe should have traded up further to try to get one of those cornerbacks that were taken? So I want to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below. So don't forget to leave those down there. Don't forget to drop a like on this video. Don't forget to check out the Panda Lions, which I am a part of. They were doing their live stream for the draft today, and they went crazy that Devonta Smith fell into the Eagles' laps. So definitely go check out their reaction. Don't forget to check out the links to the Fired Up Podcast, merchandise website, and for Flyers Nitty Gritty, they're in the description below as well. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, everyone, and I will see you next time. Howie Roseman, you're free to live another day at this point.